Happy 4th of July week 2021. Isn't this cute? This is a design from Sweet Pea, and I'm gonna make one of these today and take you along with me, and you can make one too. To make this cute little bunting, you're going to need the files, which come from Sweet Pea, and I will put the link to this design in the description box for you. Comes with two sizes and two different designs. One's the stripes, one's the star, and you're going to need an assortment of red, white, and blue scraps. And I'm kind of a folk artsy person, so I don't have white. I've got kind of a cream, sort of different cream colors. Some of them are kind of light, but I just use scraps out of my scrap bag. And you'll need your Bernina, of course. And I'm going to be using tearaway and polymesh stabilizer, and I'm going to use my jumbo hoop, and I'll probably use a 80-12 needle and just my regular 60 weight embroidery thread in the bobbin, and 40 weight in the top of my machine. Can't think of anything else to tell you that you're going to need to get going. So let's get started. Here we go. Got my jumbo hoop, and this is tearaway, and this is polymesh. So I'm just gonna hoop this up. Okay, ready to go to the machine and stitch out the stripes part of the design. There we go. Okay, I'm going to show you how to get two designs in your hoop. And I'm going to use my jumbo hoop. And we already did the star one, so now we're going to do the stripe one. And it is right here, and it wants to put it in the oval hoop because that's what the machine recognizes that a single design fits in the best. So we're going to move it. We're going to tell it that I want my jumbo hoop. So now there it is in my jumbo hoop, and you can see that I can't access all of my jumbo hoop, but I can access a lot of it. And especially on my snap hoop I can. So there we go. So let's see if it'll let me move it up a little bit, and then let's rotate it. And this little circle icon here, that's gonna let you rotate. And you can rotate 1 degree at a time or 90 degrees at a time. So there we are at 90 degrees, and let me see here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, let's go back. Now we have room down here for another one. So we want to add. When you add something, there's always a plus sign, isn't there? Like on your calculator or on your phone, you hit the plus sign when you want to add something. So here is our plus sign. So let's add another one of those. And let's go and rotate it again. And let's see, let's put it all the way the other direction, and then we'll scoot it down a little bit, just so that we have plenty of room. And we've got more room down here. We could actually move it down. There we go. Now let's move this one down just a little bit, so it's got a little bit more room. I'm not very steady today. There we go. And as long as my hoop doesn't turn red, I'm in good shape. So there I have two designs in the same hoop. And now I'll send it to the machine because I'm not going to do any more editing. And it's asking for my hoop. And now it's going to stitch out the entire first piece of the bunting, and then it'll stitch out the entire second piece of the bunting. This is some thermolamb. This is not fusible, it's just regular thermolamb. And when I did this one, the first one, I stitched out a placement line. But now I don't need to because I can see where to put it. So here we go, and we are going to stitch the fleece down. That is the first step. There are quite a few steps to this, and we're going to stitch the fleece down to begin with. So it just is going to go around in a triangle shape, and I have my thread cutter turned off. For the first one, I did have it turned on, and when it got to the star in the center, I'll show you when we get it out of the hoop. Well, when it got to the star in the center, it was working itself to pieces. There's the satin stitch that goes around the center star is not a straight back and forth across satin stitch. It's a bunch of little scallops, and at the end of each scallop it went ahead and cut the thread, and it was driving me crazy, so I turned it off. So we're at the end of the stitching down of the fleece. And so now what I'll do is I'll use my little applique scissors. These are little double curved scissors. Alright, trimming the fleece. And you want to trim close, but you don't want to cut your stitches. So in order to trim all of this, I will have to take the hoop out of the machine, but you can see that it's just a matter of trimming the fleece away, and then we'll be back and we'll add our first piece of fabric. The first piece of the bunting that I did, I put the blue on the bottom and the star was red. So this time I'm going to reverse it, and I'm going to put the red on the top, or I mean the bottom, and the star will be blue. So in order to know where to put my fabric, I need a placement line. So we'll do that now. We'll put in a placement line, and this is going to stitch a kind of a square on here so that I can see where to lay my fabric. And when you get this pattern, you'll just print off the PDF. I think there's 18 pages, and print those off, and then you'll just follow those like you would a pattern if you were sewing up a shirt. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Just follow it along. Next thing we need is to put down our background fabric, and I have pressed my fabric with Terrio Magic so it's nice and starched, and then we're going to make sure this fits and stitch it down. I'm going to leave my blue thread in there. I'm using a dark blue thread so you can see a little better. And you always want to keep your fingers out of the stitch field. Don't get anywhere near. I do kind of smooth my fabric a little bit, but I stay way back, and I use a stiletto, I use a chopstick. Okay, and now we're ready to do the quilting, and it's going to do some quilting back and forth across here in the navy blue thread. This is going to take 1 minute. We'll go ahead and stitch this across, and then we'll put the star on. We're ready for the placement stitch for the star. This is a placement stitch. Sometimes they're called die lines, but they're just a line that shows you where the boundaries are for the applique that you're going to be doing. So there it is, and now we know where to put our fabric for our star. So now we'll lay that over there, and we'll go ahead and stitch our star down. And this is just going to stitch it down, and then we'll have to go in and trim it like we did the background and the fleece. But I'm going to just trim just this bottom part off on the background. Nothing else around the sides, just the bottom part. So I'll do that while I've got my hoop off the machine. You don't want to take these out of the hoop. You just take the hoop off the machine so that you can get in here, because there's some pointy places to trim your star. So I'll do that and be back. There we go. I'm trimmed up. You can see my star in here a little bit, and the background here. And now we're ready to do the decorative stitching that goes around the star. And I've changed threads, and this is going to take about 14 minutes to get all the way around this star. So we'll start it up and we'll do a little bit, and then I'll stop the camera and be back when it's finished. Turn my lights on now and see if that will, let's see, I'll have to stop my machine to make it work. Let's see if I can, I'll turn the lights on now and see if it's too glary for you. Oh, it's better. Let's see, let's tone them down a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now you can see a little better what it's doing. But it's going around doing a kind of a medium zigzag stitch and securing it really well. And then when it gets back around here to the beginning point, it will start doing that little bubble stitch, and it'll go, and it'll do that all the way around the star, which takes a long time. Next step, outline the design on the inside of the star. Now we're going to do the placement stitching for the bottom, the little kind of pointy place for the this little piece of the bunting. So this will show me where to put my last piece of fabric. You can kind of see the stitching along here. It kind of looks like a little house Now I have to figure out what's right side up and wrong side up on this piece of fabric. I can't tell. I guess we'll go with this one. If you can't tell, I'm thinking it doesn't really matter. At least that's the way it is with batiks, although this isn't, but it's how it's going to be. So put the little bottom section on here. Okay, and the only place that we're going to trim on this piece of fabric is up here at the top on this little peak. Let's say this looked like a little house to you, and so you're just going to trim the peak. All the rest gets to stay right on there. And now it's going to do a satin stitch on this peak that we just cut. And the next step then after that will be to put the back on. And then we can take these, we'll get that all done, and we'll take these out of the hoop and turn them right side out. So when this gets the rest of the way around up here, then we'll take it out of the hoop, turn it right side out, and then we'll make the stripes bunting blocks. Okay, we're going to take this out of the hoop. And remember, I had tearaway. I said I hooped up tearaway. And then I kind of just floated some polymesh on here. So we'll take that off, and let's see, let's cut right down the middle here. And there we go. Let's see what we got here. All right. We need a ruler. So let's go at 1/4 of an inch from the stitching. And then we're going to probably have to trim our point back a little bit. So we'll do that. And I'm going to leave, I didn't read the directions, but I'm going to leave 1 inch at the top from the top of the stitching, because I'm not sure how much we're going to be turning in for our for the little rope that goes along, that holds all our little pieces of our bunting together. So I'm just going to trim this. Let's see, maybe I can bring you in a little closer so you can see. So I'm just going to trim here a little bit so that I can get a nice point. So let's see how much of this tearaway I can get out of here, because that'll help us a lot. I think the pattern says to use cutaway, but to me that's a little too heavy. There. Alright, we're going to call this good enough. Let's turn it. So you just are going to turn this right side out. And you'll probably have to do a little finagling to get the point out. But there's our star. Isn't that pretty? Let me see. That's one of our stars, I should say. We'll press these and make them look really, really pretty. Alright. There we are. There's one. So now let's do the other one. Okay, here's our first two. Let's make two more. Okay, we're working on the second set of little blocks for our little bunting, and I've got the first one done over here. And I'm just going to kind of roll back the backing so I can see what colors I've used so that I can do something a little different on this one. And it's going to start at the bottom of the bunting, and I've got several pieces of fabric kind of cut in strips here. I'm going to lay that in my lap. And let's see, what do I have on this one? Red is the first one. Okay, let's see here. Let's do kind of a tan for the first one. So let's stitch out our placement. This is going to stitch out the placement line for the first strip of fabric. This is the second file that I'm doing from the Stars and Stripes bunting. The first one was the stars, this one is the stripes, and so it's got several rows of fabric on here. And so this works kind of like a log cabin. And I'm just going to use blue thread through the whole thing. Okay, now you don't have to trim the sides or the bottom, but you do have to trim this top edge. So I am going to move my hoop a little bit so I can reach it. There we go. Put the hoop back on. Okay, now we need our second color. Let's do red. And the instructions tell us to lay it kind of even with the top edge of the fabric underneath. And we shall go ahead and stitch across there. And there's a lot of in the hoop projects that are what I would call flip and sew. And it goes kind of like this. You flip it up and give it kind of a finger press, and then it's going to tack this down and hold it. And then once again we'll trim that top edge. Got lots of extra over here. Let's get rid of some of that. turn this so I can reach it. There we go. Okay, let's put it back. Put the hoop back. There we go. Okay, next row. Let's do the blue next. So we'll do it right on the top edge of the red. And here we go. And then we're going to flip and stitch just like we did before. And we'll just do a little finger press along here and stitch it down. This one goes really fast. The other file, it took a long time because of all the stitching around the star. But this one just takes about 14 minutes and you can scoot right along. I don't know if I can do this in the hoop or not, but I'll give it a try. Well, I'm not very good at it. Yeah, I think we got it. Okay, next fabric. I have this, these are all just scraps. I have this cute fabric with red, white, and blue and stars, and looks very patriotic and quilty. It's got some quilt blocks on it, which is just pretty darn cute. Uh-oh, I am having a sensor trouble here. It doesn't like it. Let's try it again. Oh, here we go. No, it's not gonna like it. We've got to rethread. So we'll rethread really quick. And I got to back up. I'll show you how to back up. Just going to check out of my, and I'm going to use my top knob and back up to the beginning and say go. Well, I better back up a little further. Okay, there we go. Now we should be cooking. Trim here, and I don't have to trim that. I don't think you can see through the fabric for that. Boy, that's cute. That is really cute. Looks very patriotic too. Alright, what do we have left? That, do I have enough? Nope, that's not long enough. What about you? Are you long enough? I don't know. Let's tack this down and then we'll see. Alright, here we go. I got trim. There we go. Alright, now we got to see what we got enough of. Well, have to go get it different. This one's too short. Let's try this one. That one's too short. This one might work. Let's see. Now we've got to figure out what's right side out and what's wrong side out. I think that's right side out. Alright, let's try this. So in just a minute we'll have 2 more parts to our little bunting done. Alright. Okay. Now let's stitch it down. It's going to want to do a tack down, so we'll let it. Right now, it's quilting these pretty little stars all over it. Now we're ready for the back. So we'll just put the back on here and lay it so that it goes over everything. Reaches top to bottom. Let's see where we're at over here. Okay, we're good. Let's go. We'll take it over after this is done and we'll unhoop it and trim it and turn it just like we did the others. Okay, we got 4 cute little parts to our bunting, and I went ahead and cut the tops at 1/4 inch from this top line of stitching. Each one of them has a top line of stitching, and I went ahead and just took my ruler and laid the 1/4 inch on the stitching line and trimmed them. So there's a 1/4 inch there. And then I made my little bunting cord. This is not bias, but it looks like bias tape. This is just cut on the cross grain. So I'm going to tuck my little pieces of bunting in and pin them carefully in place. And I'm going to leave about, I don't know, 3/8 inch right here. This is about 3/8 inch. I'm making sure I'm getting the back. And this will be really cute hanging over my sink in my kitchen for the weekend. And there we go. Last one. And now I'll stitch this down. And I'll probably use red thread because I don't want it to show too much. And I may pin it a little better. Probably I better pin it a little more. Just because I want it to be, I want to be safe. But there is our little bunting from Sweet Pea Designs. So you still got time. I just did this in a couple hours, so you've got time to make one before the 4th and enjoy it. And if you want to make lots of these, you've got enough that you can put across your front window or around your deck. Anything. So have fun with this, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Have a great 4th of July. Stay safe and healthy.